Finally, so to talk about what I think happened around my injury. So my injury was not a weekend warrior injury. I work out, I'm a part-time PT. It's more of a case that it was an overuse injury that probably more related to athletic performance, that athletes kind of get injured probably because of overuse. To cover really simply, the reason we get injured or injure anything, muscle, tendon, ligament, is because we exceed the capacity of that muscle. So we're trying to effectively put more load or put more power and strength through a muscle, and we exceed the capacity in that particular position of that muscle, tendon, ligament, and it just rips because we've exceeded the ability for it to fight against that. So that's what's happened with my Achilles. In the days building up, I actually rested 100% the day before, but I did a Pilates exercise 2 days before. And that was my first time doing Pilates, where it wasn't strenuous, but maybe I was taking my foot through greater ranges of motion on a Pilates reformer. I really don't think that was the thing that would have injured me. It just did not feel anywhere more strenuous than anything I normally do. A few days before, I put another video up. I was doing some jumps. This was new, so I was doing some jumps in this sort of parkour area in the gym that I attend. That could definitely have stressed my Achilles out more than usual because of the load of jumping over a bar and landing, and even in an increased position. And I'm also a member at the same place of a climbing gym, so I'm climbing on rocks and bouldering, where my foot is going through big ranges. But again, I think that's good for strength. Effectively, most people injure their Achilles when they go and do something explosive, which I did on a badminton court. And those were the days coming up. And also, I practice handstands. So again, I'm going to link another video. You'll see when I kick up and I kick down, come back down from a handstand, the flexion, dorsiflexion in the foot is quite high. So again, something else that just is training my foot. If anything, all these things are training my Achilles and calf to be stronger, but possibly just doing too much of this in 1 week. And then doing something explosive like badminton, which I haven't done for a while. This was only my second week back at badminton, is the reason it maybe ruptured. And the other thing I think is I joined a social club, so I'm quite a good badminton player. And it was really on and off, stop, start. Depending on who your partner is, you might not move for like 10 seconds because the rallies just end because they miss. So it was very stop, start, which means you don't get properly warmed up. I did actually notice on the day when I was trying to do a warm up, I do this thing where I'm like sort of bouncing my toes to get a little bit of rhythm. And I remember that day specifically, I did it twice because I felt like there was a lack of spring compared to usual. So that's something I should definitely watch out for in the future when I get that signal back from my feet that maybe I'm actually a little bit tired and I lack that spring in my step. The other thing I think this was probably the biggest culprit of the injury, which was the shoes. So I've seen someone else talk about this, that there's apparently a study that says that basketball players who wear high tops rather than low top trainers are less likely to injure their Achilles. Now, there might be some performance element of that, or maybe it gives people less kind of free flowing movement, I don't know. But these, I've had these Yonex, and they're made for badminton, not squash, but I've had these for years. Well, not years, but years because of COVID, and I've not really used it. And I always noticed that my foot would slip out slightly at the back of the shoe. But it's not like they were the wrong size or anything, so I just carried on wearing them, and it mattered less on a squash court, I think, because I wasn't jumping as in the air as much. And then feeling around today, there's definitely less of a lip in the back of this trainer than I'm used to on my other trainers that I've worn, and I've always worn a mix between badminton and squash trainers, depending on which ones I like. I didn't check before really. I've not been bothered because I've never had an injury like this about it. But I remember at the moment I injured my Achilles, my foot definitely slipped out the back of the shoe. Now, if you think about this in terms of this shoe providing me stability and strength, it supports the whole foot. Obviously, when my foot is parted ways from the bottom of this shoe, my foot is taken on a pretty high load that would have been helpfully being spread amongst this shoe, so it's gone straight to my foot. And I think when my foot slipped out the back of this shoe and I was about to go and get a shot, I think it just overloaded my calf way quicker than it could react and tell me and stop me. So overall, my takeaway, and like I've said before, I think during the first phases of getting injured, it's not too good to dwell on it, but it's useful in the end because I've taken away and learned so much information from thinking about this injury for the future, is to get rid of these. I'm taking these down to the charity shop, not because I have any particular emotional grievance or anger towards these shoes, just the fact that they don't provide the support I know that's necessary and ability to stop my foot falling out of the shoe. So I'm taking those back. In the future, I'm going to do a little bit more testing on a weekly basis, that bounce perhaps, when I'm healed, to see how do my ankles and calves feel. I'm going to do a little bit more massage going forward, and I'm going to definitely pay more attention to my training plans and how much I'm loading up my calves on a daily basis. If you think I attend a bouldering climbing gym and I climb for a short amount of time before I do something else, but that's taking my calves and Achilles through big ranges of high strength movements. I also then practice handstands on days the same day. Again, short bursts, but sometimes longer. That day I did the parkour thing. Then I went to a Pilates studio where you have your feet on these bars and you kind of suppress your ankle above and below. So I think it kind of makes a lot of sense. A lot of things contributed to my just Achilles getting tired and eventually ripping. So, and of course attending a social, I'm not sure if I will actually, I don't think it's the course, but obviously being more mindful when I attend a social club where I'm not just running around and able to keep my body temperature up, to be a little bit more careful. And those are my takeaways in week 5, so trying to keep up with the routine, getting back to normal life, back at work, but making sure I am taking time and understanding what's coming in the next few days so I can prioritize the things I kind of committed to, which is going on site and teaching classes, being a PT. I need time for recovery from that. And then thinking about how I can fit in exercise around that so I don't tire myself out but keep up my strength. The other thing I would actually say I noticed, and this is the final thing I'll mention, in week 5 is by being in a boot. So when I took my foot out of the cast, I really did notice that the calf muscle and foot looked really whimpery. Like, it was quite sad seeing my foot in that state. Having put the boot on and now there being some pressure going through this leg when I walk and do other bits and pieces, I can definitely see maintenance at least, if not a slight comeback of just muscle generally in this foot. And I'm quite positive about that. I watched a video about this surfer or someone who does water sports a lot who's breaking his foot and done all sorts of things with his feet over the years. I think he said he'd 6 times been in a cast for like 6 weeks, and every time he got to the end of it, his foot had just completely disappeared. And the rehab took ages. And I'm just glad that I was only in a cast for 2 and a bit weeks, because by the week 6, had I not ever touched down and put any weight or pressure through this foot, I really hate to think what it would look like. Now, if that's the protocol you're following, because that's what's required for your injury, then I would not get too down about it. It just is what it is. But just prepare yourself for really atrophied muscle and the need to go through rehab and recovery really patiently. It's going to take a lot longer to get that muscle back, and also just to get that muscle firing. I think the brain-body connection actually breaks down because we stop using this calf muscle in the same way that you would normally walk. So that's quite a big part of physio, I believe, is actually getting the electric signal from your brain to that muscle to actually fire that calf muscle appropriately. Those are my real week 5 takeaways. I'm quite happy I've been able to talk a little bit more about what I'm doing, rather than all the appointments and all the other bits bobs going around. So I think I've covered most of what I wanted to talk about regarding nutrition, definitely movement. and rest and stress. If you know anything, if you know or want to know a little bit more about me, I do some coaching and really interested in the stress world. I've got a course. I created a course a couple of years ago now. That's centered around understanding stress better and how to program life around stress. Clearly, it's not a way of completely avoiding any injury or anything. But if you're interested in that, maybe drop a comment in the comment section. I'll see if I can send you a discount code or something. The thing that I believe in is when you're injured, we don't want to get into that negative lifestyle. This is an opportunity just to be upgrading other aspects of what we're doing. For me, I tell myself the rest of my body is going to actually be in the best shape, best condition it's been in. And I'm doing a lot of work on my business, research, personal development in the time that I'm at home and have due to this injury. So I wish the same for you. If you want to check out my course, drop me a message. If you're struggling just like me in this situation at this moment, I'll be more than happy to try and figure out something that maybe will help you out too. Alright, take care guys.